Scroll through any comment section or watch modern political protests, and you will find the word fascist deployed as the ultimate slur for anyone on the political right. Equating fascism with the right wing ignores the foundational definitions governing political philosophy for centuries. The true right is rooted in classical liberalism, a philosophy built on individualism, free market capitalism, and the strict limitation of state power. Fascism demands the total subjugation of the individual to an all-powerful, centralized state. If the right is defined by maximizing individual liberty and minimizing the state, we have to ask how a state-worshipping system became its modern poster child. Solving this paradox requires us to look past modern academic labels and investigate the actual mechanical economic engines of the original fascist regimes. These movements grew from deep socialist roots. Benito Mussolini began his career as a prominent socialist intellectual, and Nazism literally stood for National Socialism. Fascism approached private property by keeping ownership titles on paper, while the state usurped all actual power, dictating production, supply chains, and daily operations. Draconian controls followed, including the price stop decree freezing prices and strict state regulation of wages and labor markets. This was paired with a massive welfare state. Fascist regimes instituted large-scale wealth redistribution, mandatory social insurance, and vast public works programs to erase inequality between workers and employers. Survival depended on the collectivization of consciousness. The state tied economic security to ideological compliance, rewarding party loyalty with privileges while dooming dissenters to unemployment. These internal mechanics mirrored a heavily regulated collectivist left-wing command economy rather than free market capitalism. This historical record leads to a difficult question. If fascists were actually left-wing, why did communists and Marxists fight them in bloody proxy wars? These were violent turf wars within the collectivist left, as competing factions fought over the correct path to a utopian society. The split was tactical. Marxists divided the world horizontally by class, the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, while fascists and Nazis divided the world vertically by race and nation. From the perspective of the Bolsheviks in Moscow, any socialist movement not directly controlled by the Soviet Union was a heretical threat, labeled fascist. The brutal conflicts of the 1920s and 30s were sibling rivalries between competing totalitarian socialisms. In the wake of World War II, the exposure of the Holocaust and Axis atrocities forced a global reckoning for collectivist ideologies. Joseph Stalin and the global left needed to distance their own socialist ideology from the genocidal crimes of their fascist cousins. The Comintern orchestrated a propaganda campaign to systematically relabel fascism as a right-wing capitalist reaction, permanently excommunicating it from the socialist camp. Western academia eventually adopted this framework, ignoring the fascist command economy and instead using psychological studies to pathologize traditional conservative values as precursors to fascism. This created an artificial political spectrum where a state-controlled anti-capitalist movement was shoved into the quadrant reserved for free markets and limited government. F.A. Hayek warned in The Road to Serfdom that centralized economic planning and the abandonment of individualism lead directly to tyranny. Recognizing fascism as the right of the left is vital today, as the unchecked collectivist power of the totalitarian state remains the primary threat to human liberty.